Hello and welcome to episode number 111 of the WP Café show with me, Keith Devon, and my co-host, Mark Wilkinson. WP Café is the show about WordPress development and running a WordPress business where it's kind of warts and all show. Where the two of us just chat about our business and what we've been up to and the challenges we're facing and live it all out in real time with you. You can find us on YouTube. If you're here live today, please consider saying hello in the comments, letting us know who you are, where you're from. And as always, as we're chatting through the show, please do get your questions in, your comments, anything you want to discuss. We always love a bit of audience feedback and interaction. Find us on YouTube. We're also on a podcast. So if you want to listen to this as a podcast, we're on everywhere you get podcasts. And we have a website, wpcafe.show, where you can look through the archive of all the old shows on the socials as well. So you can find us anywhere that you want to find us, basically. Thank you for being with us today. We will get into the show. We've got a few things to chat about. We're going to be talking pop-ups because that's something that popped up for us today. We were chatting about it earlier on a client project. And just generally about the new year. So this is the first episode of 2025, and we'll be talking about goals and things like that for the year ahead. But before we get into all that, Mark, how have you been?
All right, yeah. Had a good, I had a mixed Christmas. I had a really good Christmas. I went away for Christmas, which was nice. Bit of sun. Yeah. And then as I returned from my Christmas break, I picked up some sort of flu. It might have been COVID. I don't know what it was, and I was in bed for like 4 days. It really did hit me quite hard. So,
that's rough.
But yeah, we're recovered. Still got a bit of a croaky cough that needs to be extinguished, but yeah, we're getting there. So that's been my sort of 2 weeks. This week's been a bit, I don't know, just a bit flat. I don't know. I feel like I haven't really got off on a quick start, but. And my desk broken, which has disappointed me. That's why I'm sat down today. You might have noticed I'm in a slightly different position. It won't move. It's dead. It won't go up. It won't go down. So I don't know what's up with it. But it's a sit stand desk. It's just one of the IKEA ones. If you've got one,
we've got the same one, don't we?
I think we have. Yeah. If you've had this and you fixed it, then let me know. I'd love to know. It just seems some shame. I can't imagine that motor's broken. I mean, it hardly goes up and down very often.
Yeah.
I've checked all the plugs and everything seems plugged in and working. So, but it won't work. It won't go up and it won't go down.
That's annoying.
So I'm stuck with it.
Yeah, mine still works.
Just to rub
I hardly ever actually use mine anymore.
Yeah. I tend to stand up. I tend to stand up to do this all the time. And I sometimes stand in meetings and things like that. Usually when I'm sat like typing and coding, I'm sat down. Not stood up, but certain meetings I like to just stand up for a half an hour, that sort of thing. But and it's funny because you miss it when you don't have it, but when you have it, you don't really realize you use it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I was standing. I think I've said this before, but I was standing loads until I moved into this office, and then the ceiling's quite low.
Yeah,
and I'm quite tall, and I really just didn't like that feeling of my head practically touching the ceiling. It was really unnerving. And when it was high, like the desk pretty much covered the window, so I couldn't really see out either. So it's just I've ended up sitting, but I'm on a kind of stool thing so like it's meant to encourage a better posture. So that was my compromise. So there you go. I hope you get fixed.
But I'm quite pleased it's actually broken down, if that makes sense, rather than up. That would be a nightmare because it's a motorized thing. You can't like push it down. You can't manually drop it or raise it. So it's obviously connected to. I don't know if you can. I don't know anyway. But I'm quite glad that it's down at the sitting level rather than at the standing level. That would be a bit of a hassle. But
that's true. It's like when you're out on a bike and your gears break. You want it to break in a good gear. So that
what gear would you want it to break in? A high gear?
Well, it depends on the ride you're on. If you're on quite a flat ride, you wouldn't want it on a super easy gear because you'd just be like spinning your legs madly trying to get home. But if you're on a hilly ride, you don't want it to be in a really hard gear.
Tough one, that one. Tough one. Anyway, let's move on to our first topic of pop-ups. Oh, pop-ups.
Yeah, I mean, it just
joy.
This comes up a lot, doesn't it, with clients? Like, can we have a pop-up for X and pop-up for Y? Like, and the question is always like, why? Like, why do you want a pop-up? And interestingly, the email we got yesterday was, I know they're really annoying, but like, can we just have one anyway? Like, yeah, but we know we're going to annoy all of our visitors, but can we do it? Like, why?
So why? If you're already saying that statement to start with, why on earth would you want to continue and say, but we need one of these things?
Yeah, if there'd been a really good justification, but like, we do really need this because this is super important for whatever reason. But it never really seems to be like that. It seems to be just, we can't think of a more creative way to get this information onto the screen. So can you just chuck it over everything else and let the user deal with the problem? That's essentially what it feels like they're doing. It's like, we can't, this is too hard for us to think about, so we'll just put it on the user and just piss them off instead. And they can close it. Like, they can make the decision. They can, like,
Is there a valid, genuine reason why a pop-up would be a good idea on a website? And I think what we mean by pop-up, just in case you're not sure, is like something that you load the website and then it literally pops up right in front of you, overlays all the content.
Like
it might sit in the center, but it dominates the screen and says, hey, you need to do something with me, either read me or get rid of me, type thing. That's the sort of thing we're doing. And is there anything that you'd think, well, actually, yeah, that's a really good idea for this piece of content? The only one I can think of is I suppose, like a cookie thing. If you have to get people to choose whether they want cookies or not, or choose some sort of cookie level for regulation or that sort of thing. But other things, I can't think of an example where you would want everyone to sort of read this and have to take in. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, like regions is another, like, choose your region. Yeah. Possibly, like, we noticed that you're browsing the US store and you're in the UK. Maybe. Probably important enough that you want people to be on the right one.
Yeah, I suppose so. But I might,
something critical, like, I don't know, there's been some kind of emergency or something's just super important. Like, everyone that lands on this website needs to see this thing. Like, we need to get this out to as many people as possible. It is mission critical. That maybe.
But this particular example wasn't that, was it?
No, it wasn't that. Exit intent stuff, I think, potentially. Like, if someone's literally going to the back button or like navigating away, and you just want that one last kind of Hail Mary, I'm gonna try to capture this. People use them, and I think they work. I think they work. So yeah, maybe that. But this particular use case is like stuff that's going on within the organization. It's just like
a news item, essentially. That's the latest one that
and it's fairly time sensitive. Like, it's maybe announcing an event or something like that. Like, I get that, but like, why not just put it on the page? So they wanted it on the homepage. It's not as if it's a site-wide thing either. It's like, can we add a pop-up to the homepage? I'm like, why can't we just add this information to the homepage?
To the homepage,
Like, and if it's really important, add it in the hero, or add it just below the hero. Like, why does it need to be a pop-up? Why does it need to be able to be closed? Because say, oh, well, it might not be relevant to everybody, but there's loads of information on the website that isn't relevant to everybody, and you scroll past the bits that aren't relevant. I don't know. There just seems there's so many other ways. I don't know if other people experience this. If you're watching along and you're nodding your head, it'd be really interesting to know if lots of your clients ask for pop-ups, and if they do, how do you deal with it? Do you just do it? I mean, do you just deliver it, or do you try to come up with other ways? Do you probe in the way that we have been, or are you just like, yeah, we'll do that for you?
I think this is a slightly bigger issue and trend in that we've had more and more clients come with requests. You know, that's can I do this thing? Can I add a pop-up? Can we add a slider? Can we add this thing? Rather than coming to us and saying, I want to do this, I want to display this information. Have you got any ideas about how the best way we could display it is? It's more, sometimes they come with the solution to a problem that they think is a problem that is solved in a much better way, rather than coming and asking for the advice. I think, like, can we have a pop-up to show this event or something? Well, yeah, all right. So you want to promote this event? There's 1,001 ways we could promote this event, and a pop-up probably isn't the best way to do it. So why don't we just come with us with this thing we want to do or promote, and then ask for some suggestions? And hey, maybe a pop-up would be the right solution for some things. I think, and I see more and more clients doing that. Like, they see this way of presenting information on a website and just automatically assume that that's going to be the best way to present the information that they want to present.
Yeah. I'm not so convinced that it's a new trend. I think that's just been going on forever. Like, clients think that they need to come to us with solutions to problems rather than just coming to us with the problem.
Yeah.
I think that's been happening since web design began.
Yeah, because you've had some clients in the past, haven't you? Like, oh, can we install this plugin and get you working on the site? And it's like, well, why? What do you want it for?
Yeah, what are you trying to do?
Because we want to do X, Y, and Z. All right, well, we don't need that plugin. We can just do it this way, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's. I think because we had one as well with clients saying they wanted a slider on one of the homepages to promote.
That's a common one.
So it's a similar. Essentially, it's the same request almost. It's like, we want to promote content.
Yeah,
their solution to that, to tell us the solution, obviously, was slightly different to the other one, which is like a pop-up. This was like, oh, let's have a slider and we can promote like 3 or 4 different things.
Yeah.
I thought your response to that was really good. It was like, they're terrible. This is why they're terrible. Actually, there's far better ways of doing it. Let me go away and have a look at some of the options that we could do. Went back to her and suggested, here's a quick mock-up, because we're using the block editor. It's like you can just jump in and start fiddling around, and then show them that content, and they're like, oh, well, that's really good. What about changing that and that? And then you get to a solution which is much better. But still, clients come with the solution, not the problem.
Yeah.
That
was an interesting. It's not really related, but that mock-up. So the mock-up that I delivered to the client was just a draft page that I mocked up in the editor, but I actually started that in Sketch, and I was fiddling about with it in Sketch, and I was like, at some point I was like, this would actually be easier to do in the editor, because I know I want to use a cover block and I want to change the opacity of the the image or whatever, the overlay, and that was quite cool. Like, it was actually kind of difficult to do in the editor because we've turned off dimension controls on that particular website. Dimensions, not dimensions. Yeah, like margin and padding.
And padding and margin. Dimensions.
We've turned that off on that website, so there's a few things I couldn't do. I couldn't do my negative margins and things like that. But yeah, it was interesting that I actually went to the editor to do the mock-up. That was in the end.
Yeah, change mindset a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mark, thank you, Mark, for joining us. He says several clients have asked for it, but hang on, I've highlighted the wrong one there. This one is the one I wanted to highlight. If it's a pop-up to get subscriptions, then I'd add it and track the interactions with Google Analytics to prove that no one uses it. So my question, if you know that no one's going to use it because you've done this before, would you not just advise the client that? As in, I'm the expert, I've done this before, I've done the analytics, therefore I know that this won't work, so therefore I'm going to advise you that, rather than having to say, yeah, no problem, I'll add this, and then we'll just go through the motions.
Yeah.
Because we did that once with a social sharing thing, didn't we? With one of the clients, they insisted on having a social sharing buttons. So we installed them, and they had like 2 clicks in 6 months, which we knew that was what's going to happen. So
we had a hunch. We had a hunch.
And now we know. So I don't think we wouldn't suggest running that experiment again unless there was a really good reason why we think this is a different scenario. We'd probably just say, look, we've done this. We know this is not going to work. Like, there's no point in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be interested to dig into, like, someone must have done some research on this, like pop-ups versus on-page content for various scenarios. Like, I can imagine that maybe, like, newsletter signups are a really classic example, aren't they? Someone must have done the experiment when they have that content on a page versus that content on a pop-up and see which one converts more. So it'd be interesting to look at that, and also just like how having a pop-up hurts or doesn't, just general user behavior, like bounce rates and whatever, click-throughs and stuff like that. Like, it would be interesting. I don't have that to hand, but like for the carousel one, the slider one, there's a site called, oh my God, what's it called?
Yeah, should I can't remember.
Should I use the carousel
carousel.com or something like that, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's obviously the answer is no, and it's displayed in a carousel, and it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it links to a lot of good resources and like expert opinion on why carousels are terrible. Be good to have something like that for pop-ups as well. I wouldn't be surprised if it exists, actually, but yeah.
It's just got me thinking though with the pop-up. Mark said here, he's only ever done this once in 5 years, putting a pop-up on, and it was for an emergency message for a transport company, transport that out of service. So when you have a page, if you have a website that you visit regularly, I find you tend actually not to read a lot of it, do you? You scan. So actually, if your important message is buried in the brand and it's like matching all the site design, you're probably not going to see it, even though it's there right at the top of the page, because you're not looking for it. So is there an argument that the pop-up actually forces you to see it? Because
I think that's the exact argument.
It's like, you know, but I think you could probably do that without the pop-up. I think, you know, just like we said, just putting it under the hero at the top of the page, but making it a standout color that looks different. So visually, you just see something different on the page and your eyes drawn to it, rather than having it as the normal brand color and so on and so forth. Maybe that's something to change.
Yeah, there's loads of ways you can draw attention to something, you know, color, animation, size, shadows, loads of different ways you can do that. Yeah. I think that is the reason they work. It's just because, like, look at me right now, and deal with me. You know, it's like you can't just easily scroll past it or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. But maybe it'd be good to have some more research in our locker next time we get asked, because I want to be a bit more informed in my response rather than it just sounding like I don't like pop-ups and I can't be arsed doing it.
But the other thing that gets me is that the client, they've asked for this pop-up. So regardless of whether that's right or wrong or not, that's what they've come to us with this request. Now, they know that they want to present some information, and like we've said, they probably want to sort of force it down people's throats. Like, this is it. I need them to read this information. Rightly or wrongly, that's what they've decided to do. Yet they've decided that a pop-up is the way of doing it, knowing that we don't have that facility on the website. So they're instantly saying to us, I want to spend some money here building this solution for this one thing, rather than them knowing that they've got this editor that they can do all sorts with. You know, they can change colors and make things stand out. Why aren't they saying, like, well, I'm not going down the pop-up road because I know that's going to be an expensive and new thing.
Because it doesn't have to be expensive. You know, you could install Pop-Up Manager plugin.
You could, yeah.
And it works out of the box for no cost. No apparent cost, but yeah.
Well, I'm not so sure there's no cost, but yeah.
No financial cost. Direct.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean. From their point of view, this is just something that should be easy because it's a website and I want to pop up on it. Like, of course that's easy.
Well, then, if it's that easy, off you go.
Yeah, that's true.
You do it. You don't need it.
But they are coming to us. I mean, and we want them to. We want clients to come to us with stuff like this so that we can give them good advice.
And you're right. You're right. We're moaning about it as such, but actually, I mean, they did come to us. They did come to us and ask for the pop-up. We can then direct them in a different route that's better. So that's good in a way that they're not just going ahead and doing their own thing. So that's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, pop-ups, sliders. Moving on. And presumably there's a perfect answer to that question that we've all yet to find, but we'll get there.
Yeah, it's the perfect answer is it depends. That's always the perfect answer with web design.
Just reply with it depends.
It depends. Yeah. Next up, setting goals for 2025. Mark, you don't like setting goals, do you? You don't like goals?
Not really a fan of them, no.
Why not?
Because they always seem to be setting goals for setting goals' sake. Like, it doesn't mean you're going to achieve them just because I write them down and say, "Oh, look, I've written these list of goals at the start of the year. I must try and achieve them." That's my take on it.
Do you think? do you think you're more or less likely to achieve them having thought about them and written them down?
I think no different, but I know a lot of people would say different. So
I think you're more likely to achieve it.
Yeah.
If you kind of articulated it and given it some thought. I know you mean, like, we could just say, I want to double our revenue this year.
Exactly.
It's like, well done. So does everybody else. Good luck with that, you know? But I think unless you have, that's so on that point, I'm kind of with you. But we have done it before, Mark, where we've been like, okay, we want to increase revenue every year by 20%. I think the number we gave ourselves once as a target, 10 or 20, I can't remember. And we wrote that down. That was a target. And then the next question becomes how? And that's the interesting stuff. It's not necessarily the goal and how realistic it does have to be. Well, does it have to be realistic? Maybe super unrealistic goals are actually way better, because if I say I want to make £10 million this year, it'll probably make me think differently than if I'm saying I want to make £1 million. I don't know. Like, you're in a different kind of mindset, and you might come up with that idea that actually gets you much further. So that kind of like reach for the stars and you'll get to the moon kind of thing. Like, if you aim really far, you're quite likely to go a long way, rather than if you have short, like easy wins. Like, you might get them, but that's that's all you'll ever get. You'll never hit those bigger leaps. I think that there's arguments for that anyway. But
it's just like if you're a 100-meter runner and you say, well, my goal this year is to run, I don't know what the world record is, but 9.55. I don't know what the world record is. I'm going to assume that's a few hundredths or whatever under the world record. Why wouldn't you try to achieve 9.4? Like, you should just be trying to go as fast as you can. That's my goal. My goal is to go as fast as I can all the time. That's my goal. So why writing down a number doesn't make any difference to that? That's how I kind of feel about goals. It doesn't really. I'm always trying to go that way. That's my aim all the time, because I'm a runner. And I'm a 100-meter runner, and I just want to run as fast as I can. So that's my goal every year, to run as fast as I can.
But is your goal this year to make more money than we did last year? Or is your goal this year to make the same?
But surely it would always be to make more money than you did last year.
Okay. But then we've got to do something to do that, you know? So I guess, maybe the goal setting is, like you say, isn't important. Maybe it's the objective setting or the tactic setting or the whatever. It's more the strategic conversations. But then you kind of argue, how do you have those strategic conversations without having the goal in a way? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe the goal should be more practical things rather than quantitative numbers. You know, I don't know.
So I've got a question for you. So you said that the goal is always to make more money, right? For example, that's like an obvious goal. So say last year we made 250,000 in revenue, and this year we make 251,000 in revenue. Have we hit or like, are you happy with that as a goal? And we're like, yeah, sweet, nice. We did it. Like, celebrate. Because for me, I'm not like. So there's something in between. There's something greater than that is the actual target. Like, we haven't articulated it yet, but
you're assuming that you're assuming that because my goal was to make more money this year than I did last year, the things that I have been doing all year have been the minimal amount just to make another £1,000. Whereas, and because I wrote it down that I actually wanted to make 275,000 rather than just more money, you're assuming that I'm then going to do all these other things to make that happen. Yeah. Well, why weren't I doing those anyway rather than writing the goal down?
So the goal
that's what I think about.
Maximize revenue. It's just hard to know. It's hard to kind of hold yourself to account, I guess. Then, like, what does that mean? Maybe I've made £10,000 more than last year. To some people, you've maximized it. To some, that's like pathetic. I don't know. I totally get where you're coming from. I almost completely agree with you, but I just there's this whole setting
It's
of
just like
goals
if
thing.
the
I think
goal is,
there's something to it, but we've got to
the
kind of
goal is
get the
I
right
want to make
framework.
as much money possible this year. So therefore, I've got to be doing all the things that I need to be doing to make
But
as
what's
much money
possible?
possible.
What's possible?
Well, I don't know. That's the point. But so I can't describe what I mean. So why would I not be doing all those things unless I write it down and set it in my mind? Because surely
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to do all the time. I don't need to be told that I want to be making more money or getting more projects or whatever. That should be just what I'm doing. Just like the runner should be trying
It's
to run
not
as
though, is
fast
it?
as they can all the time.
Yeah. But I bet the runner that sets that ambitious target gets further than the one that doesn't. Like gets improves more than the one that doesn't. I would think. Like there's the marathon runners that try to break like the 2 hour mark.
Yeah.
Like that's hard. That's really hard, and they've got to be super focused and super like it's a lot of effort. They've got to think outside the box. Blah blah blah. If you just say, as a marathon runner, if you just say, I want to be faster this year," you might change your shoes and say you're going to do an extra training session a week, and then you go faster, and you're like, okay, great. The guy who set the or girl, lady who set the really ambitious target is going to be the one that actually probably goes a lot further, faster. But I don't know. It's a
I don't know.
mentality thing, isn't it? Because otherwise, you just end up sitting doing the same old stuff. You know, like you never kind of. I think it's an exercise in maybe more creative thinking. Like this is what we do today. What we could just like slightly optimize things and hope for the best, or we could be like, is there something there? Is there something we could really what would it take for us to double our revenue? What would that actually look like? Rather than just think we'll just be slightly better this year than the year before. I don't know. I just yeah.
But the point is, if the opportunity is there, why to double your revenue? Surely you'd take it, even if your goal was just
It's
to
not
get
always
better.
obvious. You have to look for the opportunities. They don't land on your lap. If something lands on our laps and it was like there's this mega client that wants to hand us all that money in one go, then yes, I will take that opportunity. But unless you're looking for the opportunities, that's what I mean. Unless you're looking for the opportunities, you might not never find them. We've done it before. Where like I said, when we were trying to increase revenues by like 20%, we were like, how are we going to do that? Like, what are all the different ways we could do it? And that led to a conversation about raising the prices of our products, how many extra clients we might need to find, what might those clients look like, what do we do with our current client retainers, do we put the prices of those up, blah blah blah. It led to those conversations that I don't think we would have had otherwise if we hadn't had that 20% target. We're like, how are we going to make that up? So yeah, don't think we hit it there, did we?
So there you go.
I don't know, but there's always other forces outside your control. But I'd argue most forces are outside your control. But yeah, it's interesting. So we haven't set any goals, have we? Basically, is the moral of the story.
Not really, no. What about everybody else? What's your goals?
Yeah,
Inspire me. Come on, inspire me to reach for the stars and hit the moon. What do you set goals? Do you write them down? Do you note them down, or do you just not bother like me?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's. I find it really interesting. I see why you're skeptical, but I think there's lots of reasons that are hard to put your finger on why they work.
But they don't work. Most people don't hit them.
No, but they've probably moved forward in a direction in a way that they wouldn't have if they'd never made them. I think.
Let's see. Maybe.
It's not about hitting them for me, necessarily.
Okay.
I think if you don't, you just drift a bit. But like, yeah.
That brings us on to the next thing, which is kind of maybe this should be part of the new goal: finding some new clients and projects, because we do need to find some.
Why do we need to?
Because we've lost some, essentially.
Yeah.
Do we need to? Well, we don't need to. Like, if we don't find a new client, 2 new clients, so we lost 2 clients at the end of last year, didn't we? Well, so we haven't lost them yet, but they've verbally announced that they're not going to be renewing their maintenance contracts and moving the websites to other platforms. So they will disappear. If we don't replace them, are we going to go out of business? No. So we don't need to replace them. But why would we not want to replace them? That would be the case.
Have to do less work.
All right. True.
Yeah.
True. But yeah, I think we should try and find some more clients. And I guess the question is how. That's the question.
Question is how. Yeah. I was speaking to some friends about this morning. And I think we said it before in this podcast. I think we need to get on other people's podcasts in the industries that we're targeting. And it's on my to-do list. I didn't do it just before Christmas because I thought that was a stupid time to send out emails like that. But it's on my to-do list to get on some podcasts for this year within the recruitment space.
Maybe that should be your goal.
Well, is that a goal or an objective? No. The goal is to get on a podcast. The objective is send out the emails, maybe something like that. But yeah,
surely that can be a goal to appear on 2 podcasts in X industry. That's a goal. So there you go. That's right. You've said it now. That's your goal.
That's the thing. I think you always have goals. It's just whether you kind of write them down or not, and expand on them. So yeah, I'd like to do that because, like they pointed out in the call this morning, we are comfortable in this format. You know, we do this all the time. So I know being interviewed will be slightly different. It'd be slightly more pressure, wouldn't it? Like I'm talking to you, who I talk to every day.
You get used to it.
Yeah, but I think you would get used to being a guest, and we just have to make sure we've got some stuff to talk about. But I think just extolling the virtues of open source within that industry is probably a good one. Like a good angle.
Well, while we're thinking about goals and new clients and podcasts and things, wouldn't it be a great idea when you contact these people who run these podcasts, who I don't know who they are yet, but presumably you're going to find out, to say, hey, here's an episode overview of the episode that we could literally do. So you almost just like saying, not only is this a really good guest for you because we're going to talk about X, which is relevant to your audience, but actually we've done all the work for you here. This is literally the interview you could go through, and you can obviously polish it up yourself, but you've got a great starting point of what the sort of things we want to talk about, rather than just saying, hey, can I be on your podcast? Because I think it'd be quite good.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think from my point of view, like from this podcast, if we did want someone on and someone did that to us and said, hey, I'd love to come on and talk about X, and here's like an outline of what we could talk about, I think that would be far more powerful than just saying, can we talk about X? Because actually I might not know much about X. And that would really help.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I just think the other thing I need to give a bit of thought to is like the interesting angle. Like, what's the hook? What's the title of that podcast that their viewers, listeners are going to be like, yeah, I really need to hear what they have to say about this. There needs to be something. It can't just be like, why WordPress is better for your websites. That's not going to resonate with anybody.
Just from our experience in the industry, that's got to be the getting away from locked-in software.
Yeah.
So you sign up to these website building platforms, and you don't own the website. You don't really own the content because you can't really migrate it elsewhere apart from copying and pasting it.
Yeah.
You're kind of locked into their payment plans, and sometimes that's okay. Like, it depends what sort of business you're running and so on.
Yeah.
You can't really get ahead of your competitors because you're on a platform that everyone's using, so they've all got the same features, they've all got the same stuff that they're running. Whereas WordPress, you own it, it's yours, you run it yourself or you get someone else to run it, but it's yours. You can do what you want with it. You can extend it as much as you want, given the right expertise and support. I think that's the sort of angle that should probably be the one that you use to discuss, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. And then the other thing that we've been doing, hopefully eventually to help get a few more clients, is like rejigging our website a little bit. No changes on there yet, but I'm creating separate landing pages for the industries that we have worked in recently, which is recruitment and independent schools. And our homepage is going to change from being very recruitment focused to being, we're High Rise Digital. This is all the stuff we do, which is like general WordPress websites, some recruitment software, WP Cafe. This is like an overview of us. Go to these places to find out more about the specifics.
With the idea probably in that most people, we'd like most people not to land on the homepage. They land on the page that's relevant to them. As in, if you've clicked, site by High Rise Digital at the bottom of one of the school websites we've done, you will be landing on the independent schools WordPress site. Page.
but also importantly, when you go to the homepage, it won't be we build recruitment, this recruitment, that recruitment, the other thing. So it's like, hang on a second, I'm a school, I'm not a recruiter. Like, you may have come away from that landing page, or you might be like sending this to the headmaster. He's like, go and check out the guys at High Rise Digital, and he goes to High Rise Digital, and it's like, this is all about recruiters. What are you talking about?
That homepage should be more, hey, we're a couple of guys who build stuff, and we tend to use WordPress to build it.
Do you know what I've noticed as well? In Google search results, quite often the pages are landing pages that are ranking. They're not home pages. And I don't know if that's just because it's big agencies that have multiple industries that they're serving. But like lots of the top results for independent school web design, for example, are landing pages. They're not home pages. So like it's not like the agency is specialized in that, which I thought it would be. I thought it would just be like specialist agencies or platforms the whole way down. But it's not. It's like it's mostly landing pages. So it obviously doesn't hurt to do it that way.
I think at the moment the message is strange.
Yes, it's confusing.
When you land on, because even if you land on the landing page for independent schools, if you're like me, you're going to have a click around. You're going to click the homepage, and then you're just going to get this. Hang on a minute, the just recruitment website. It doesn't make sense, does it? So, I think we need to, like I said, have a homepage which is, hey, this is us. This is what we do. We do a few things. We tend to use WordPress that binds everything together. And then when you click outside of those things, you then go to these landing pages that gives you more of an overview of that specific service or that specific sector that we're in.
Yeah.
I think that would make more sense. Again, is that going to get us new clients? I don't know. Probably not. But it might help.
I think it'll help. And it'll certainly help other efforts. Like, for example, I'm going to try some cold email with the independent schools and potentially some recruiters as well. And see if any of that works.
It's more of a backup to other strategies, I think, that make those more.
Yeah, and SEO is long term. Like occasionally, like we publish a page and then we check, I don't know, a few months later, and it's actually ranking quite well, and we're getting some traffic through it. But so you may as well start that process today.
Yeah,
rather than waiting for when it's really urgently needed. So yeah. So yeah, a few ideas. So we've got kind of goals in our heads that haven't been articulated, but we've got some ideas that we're going to try to implement this year. We'll definitely try to replace those clients that we lost. We'll probably keep trying to think of new product ideas. We've always got our eyes open to that, don't we? Like, what can we do? What can we build? Like we've got something that you've developed recently, and it's like this really great idea. And it's like, well, how do we package that up? So there's always that challenge.
It's quite hard to package it. We sat in the chat about this morning, weren't we? It's quite hard. Yeah. It kind of like the core bit of what it does, you can put in a plugin, but actually there's so many other things surrounding it that you'd need to do as well. And that really just depend on what the site running is, what the site is, what the content is, how they are using WordPress or the block editor or the Avada or page builder theme or the what it's so many variables, it's very difficult to package all that up into one thing. So it's probably going to be more of a service that has this,
I think so,
thing we use all the time, and then we change things based off of something.
Yeah, it's going to be like, you already have a job board on your website. We've got this thing that can turn that into an SEO powerhouse.
Yeah.
Give us X or X per month, and it's yours. I'm sure we will discuss that in more detail as the year goes on, but I think we should wrap it up for today's episode.
Just before we do wrap it up, we said at the end of last year I put out some tweets and some whatever they're called on Blue Sky, posts, I guess they're called, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know.
We were thinking of doing some like different episodes, like maybe getting some guests on and trying some sort of guest episodes with people on. The consensus seemed to be, and granted, we didn't have an awful lot of feedback, but the consensus seemed to be that you don't want to see the usual guests. I think you know what I mean by that. You want to see, and I'd be much more interested in this, like seeing other people that are similar to us and hopefully you guys that are watching as well. So, smaller agencies, people running their own businesses, maybe small teams like us, and how they go about, making money with WordPress, I guess, is the thing. So, A, do you think that's something you'd like to watch? B, do you think you or of someone that might like to be on the show? And C, would you like that to be this show on a Friday afternoon? Yeah. Or do you think this should carry on in its normal format and maybe do some alternative dates and times for the shows where we chat to someone? So
that's a good question, because we could just record those at a time that suits us and the guest, maybe even lightly edit them and then put them out on the channel. Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of questions there, but we just want to put something out that people are going to enjoy and people are going to find useful. So it's kind of important that if you've got any thoughts on that, then let us know. You can let us know on our socials.
Yep.
We're on X at WP Cafe Show, or we're on Blue Sky at wpcafe.show, or you can always contact me and Keith as well on those platforms.
Absolutely.
Just thought I'd mention that to finish
No, that's
up.
good. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for watching along live, for those of you that joined us on YouTube, and for your comments and questions and things like that. Do consider giving us a little like before you go. Just click the little thumbs up and subscribe if you do want to see more shows like this. And we'll see you next time. See you next week.
Happy New Year. See you next week.